It's actually 2 acres, not just one.
Well, this is two.
Okay, well, it was probably all of this at one time, and they just kind of separated it
Right.
out and never changed that one to.
Right, but if this is one parcel number, and that's 1 acre, how can that be it when
That's
that's
not
2
1
acres?
acre.
Right, so how can it be SR1?
There's 350 acres we just did over there.
Let's call to order the regular meeting Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019 of the Chino Valley Planning and Zoning Commission. Commissioner McCafferty, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Welker,
Here.
Commissioner McCafferty,
Here.
Commissioner Pasiak,
Here.
Commissioner Switzer, Commissioner Metters,
Here.
Vice Chair Armstrong,
Here.
Chair Merritt.
Here. Okay, we'll move forward to item 4A, consideration and possible action to approve the August 6, 2019 regular meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Anybody have any corrections or comments? All right, seeing none, I will call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend we approve the August 6, 2019 minutes as provided to us.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. We'll move forward to item 5, staff reports. Do we have any of those tonight, gentlemen?
We have no staff reports for tonight.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna move forward to the next item in the public hearing section, item 6A. Consideration of possible action to rezone approximately 6.85 acres of real property from the MR1 multifamily residential 1 acre minimum zoning district to the MR1 PAD multifamily residential 1 acre minimum zoning district with a planned area development overlay. The project proposes 152 units and 4 stepped 2 to 3 story structures. The property is generally located 1,400 feet west of State Route 89 and 620 feet south, with assessor's parcel number 306-23-024C. And the staff has a recommended action tonight for this issue to be continued to the October 1st, 2019 Planning and Zoning meeting due to a posting notice error. So I would entertain a motion to move this to the next meeting.
I so move.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. So we'll move forward to item 6B, consideration and possible action to rezone approximately 2.05 acres of real property from the AR5 agricultural residential 1 acre minimum zoning district to the SR1 single family residential 1 acre minimum zoning district. The property is located 460 feet east of the northeast corner of West Center Street and Sycamore Vista Drive at 1370 West Center Street. Assessor's parcel number 306-21-010T as in Tom. Alex?
Chair, Commissioners, before you have an item from the Lasser family. They have applied and are requesting a zone change on the property. They stated the property is located 490 feet east of the northeast corner of West Center Street Road and Sycamore Vista Drive at 1370 West Center Street Road. Access to the property is through Center Street Road. Improvements on site consist of the main family residence. They have a guest home in the rear and accessory structures. Surrounding areas comprised of medium to low density residential. We have Mesa View South subdivision. To the north, we have Chino Valley Estate subdivision to the south and Molly Ray Estate subdivision on the southwest location. The property is comprised of 2 acres. Currently, it has a zoning district of agriculture residential 5-acre minimum. The general plan designation to the property is medium density residential. The property is considered a non-conforming lot. It seems that in the past it was subdivided from an adjacent lot without first the zoning district being changed or the zoning classification being changed. So the applicant is requesting a request for a zone change to give the right zoning district to the property, or the closest zoning district that's supported by surrounding zoning. The applicant had a neighborhood meeting on August 7th, 2019. Said meeting, there were no attendees. Staff, through their review and analysis, supports this zone change. It believes that the SR1 zoning district will give the property the right zoning classification. And it is also supported by the general plan designation of the medium density residential. I believe the Lasters in the future have plans to subdivide the property, which will mean that each residence will be in a new property. So, staff recommends the Planning and Zoning Commission for the recommendation of approval to Town Council to adopt ordinance 2019-872 to rezone approximately 2.5 acres of real property from the Ag 5 zoning district to the SR1 zoning district. And I would like the commission to see your screen. These recommendations aren't in the staff report. These were created after the staff report was already prepared, but there's 2 conditions that I'm going to indicate, and then I believe Development Service Director or Public Works Director is going to add an additional condition of approval. But condition number 1 is that any new construction on site shall required to be hooked up to town sewer. Both the property right now is on the main residence is on the septic. I believe the guest home that's located to the rear is also hooked up to the septic. So this basically means that any new construction will need to be hooked up to town sewer. Condition number 2, or stipulation number 2, any modifications or expansion to existing buildings that will require the replacement of a septic tank must be hooked up to town sewer.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I apologize, but we didn't even make it in for the presentation, but the 3rd stipulation I would recommend, since that property lies along Center Street, which is an arterial, that we would request as part of a stipulation of the rezoning that the applicant provide an additional 25-foot of right-of-way along Center Street to provide for, to meet to the current code requirements, which would result in a 50-foot half-width right-of-way or 100-foot whole-width right-of-way for Center Street. There's currently 25, so we're asking for 25 additional feet of right-of-way.
Okay. It's not on here.
The applicant is here. If Chair or Commission have any questions for him or for staff.
I have a couple of questions for staff. The sewer stipulations, I'm making the assumption that the sewer is in front of their property and they will not be asked to spend any money bringing it up to their property other than the yard line. Am I correct there?
Mr. Chairman, the sewer lies in Center Street, so if the property fronts or abuts Center Street, they would just have to connect a lateral. If they split the property in such a way so as to create a a public way easement to access other property, there may be an extension required for that additional property depending on how it's split.
Okay, so
But
if they split it in half east to west, then the back parcel, the back piece of property would have to have a yard line go to the street if they ever had to replace the septic system, am I correct?
in essence, I don't know if I'd necessarily call it a yard line. Depending on how it goes, it may have to be a main extension.
And then the owner would be required to pay for that.
That would be council's decision whether or not those fees, depending on how the project, if it was a town project, the town could pay for it, and then it would be up to council to pass a resolution of whether or not that gets back charged to the property owner. So there's a couple ways to do it. So the best way to say it is it may be their cost.
Okay, because it seems like it could wind up being a fairly expensive hardship to the person with the back piece of property. Am I correct there?
That depends on the cost and what your opinion of expensive and hardship is. So it's hard to answer that, but utilities cost money to extend, but also there's reason we have sewer system going throughout town. But I do want to also say that council did pass a resolution to not require existing properties to hook up into mandatory connections when they'd extended it along Center Street. They don't, if they've got a functioning septic system, they don't have to hook up.
I'm just asking questions just for clarification
Right.
for myself. Are the other houses on Center Street required to hook into the sewer if their septic systems fail?
I would have to check the code to make sure of that, to verify that, but I would assume new construction has to hook into the sewer if it's available.
Okay. I guess the intent of what your recommendations are is because the lot's being split, it would be better to hook into the sewer than try to find another place to put the septic system if that's what failed.
Right, and it's development, even though it might be a lot split process, the development's similar to a subdivision, so legally we're taking the tack that if it's similar development, that we try and extend and connect town utilities where possible.
Okie dokie, thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I have just a question. On number 2, modification or expansion to existing buildings. I just need I know what I envision what that means, but if they add a room, they expand the house by 100 square feet, does that mean they're gonna have to wipe out their septic and hook into a city?
I tried to word that to where if the county's the one that reviews septic systems for the state through ADEQ and a development or delegation agreement. So anything that would require, where the county would require, say, a larger tank, if they added enough to the house or structure to require a new larger tank be put in, or if their construction conflicted with the location of the tank. I've seen them in the past where they need to move the tanks. That's what I was trying to get at there, if they needed to move a tank or replace a tank. But if they could work within the existing system, that it would not require anything to connect.
Anybody else?
There seems to be some confusion on this stipulation number 3. I'd like to see it in writing so we can really see it and see what it says. We had too many questions back and forth for it to me to understand what stipulation 3 actually is and what it means.
The right-of-way easement?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the additional 25 feet? Right, okay.
So maybe you could go through, I don't know how we can get it writing here unless we had it handed out on paper.
Can I type on that? Hang on, let me. Yeah.
pressure's on. He's typing in front of everybody.
He's doing way better than I'd be doing.
You felt the pressure, Frank?
Ninth grade typing class.
If you're gonna do that, you might as well correct excise into existing.
I'm not sure if you can
Questions
correct
just
it
for
as easy.
25 feet.
Pardon?
There's a lot of questions asked for
Existing,
25
number
feet.
two.
Gary's still got something he wants.
Yeah. Well, if you excise the building, it's just not there anymore.
If you excise the septic tank, then you gotta build them.
Okay, does that all read good English to everybody? All right, so I'd like to go through that one more time just to read it straight through once, if you wouldn't mind. Just, I can read it for you if you'd like. So the staff is recommending that this move for approval with 3 stipulations. Number 1, any new construction shall be required to hook up to the town's sewer. Item 2, any modification or expansion to existing buildings that would require the replacement of the septic tank must be hooked up to town sewer. And then item 3, applicant shall provide an additional 25 feet of right-of-way along Center Street, with the explanation being that it's an arterial street and that's just what we do when we get the chance to do it. So, does anybody else have other questions?
I have one question on the additional right-of-way. The first screen that we looked at showed a fence in front of the property.
It was a street view.
Keep going. Yes,
Oh,
right
these are
there, yeah.
That one.
Is that additional 25 foot, is that gonna impact the fence, or do we know?
We don't know, but it likely would.
Okay, so they'll be required to set the fence back then?
Either that, or we could write a permit for it, a revocable permit that allows for that fence until such a time as the town expands the road and needs to relocate that fence. Then the property owner would be
I would prefer the
required to.
second option.
Yeah, I like that myself.
I would prefer the second option rather than moving the fence and then having it sit for who knows how
Absolutely.
long.
We're actually working on that permit because we have a number of issues around town like that, to where we get these wide right-of-ways and they may not be needed for 20, 30 years. So I don't see that as a problem. We can handle that through staff at Public Works level.
So
Okay.
would that be something that we'd want to add on as a recommendation for the council so they would know that that would be considered?
No, I think that's staff.
I would maybe turn to Josh. Do we need to add that in the stipulation, or can we just,
Well, when
re-
we draft our
part of our
staff
narrative.
report to council, we can include that as the narrative, that it was your recommendation to forward it with that addition. Plus,
Okay.
it should be part of the minutes as well.
Because that would, I just think that would be
Yeah.
something the council would want to know.
You gotta talk into the
Yeah.
microphone. Yeah, we don't wanna put a hardship on the owner that he shouldn't really be needing to bear at this point. Okay, so is everybody pretty satisfied? Would the owner like to come up and speak? Okay, good, thank you.
Fence I put up, I'll take down.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we'll open up this portion of this item to the public. Does anybody have any comments to make in the audience? All right. Please step up to the microphone and state your name, please.
Good evening. My name is Mary Turner. I am just curious on the zoning because, and I might be naive, I'm not sure. If it was agricultural residential, 5 acre minimum, how is it only 2.5 acres?
Somebody screwed up many years ago.
Okay,
We've been there 30 years and it's been 5 acres.
Basically, I
So-
think this is an attempt to straighten up an error that was made in the past.
okay.
We
Just
do have a few of those in
Wondering
Chino
if
Valley.
that is an error on zoning. Thank you.
It's not surprising.
All right, anybody else in the audience want to speak? All right, we will close that portion of the minutes, or the meeting, excuse me. So, I would entertain a motion, unless somebody else has any other questions for staff.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the Planning and Zoning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to Town Council to adopt ordinance 2019 TAC 872 to rezone approximately 2.05 acres of real property, which is actually AR5 agricultural residential 5-acre minimum zoning district, to SR1 single-family residential 1-acre minimum zoning district with the following stipulations. Stipulation 1, any new construction shall be required to hook up to town sewer. Number 2, any modification or expansion to existing buildings that would require the replacement of a septic tank must hook up to town sewer. And 3, applicant shall provide an additional 25 feet of right-of-way along Center Street.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, does anybody have any comments? Okay, so I'm gonna make one comment, and that is that the permit, which is in the mill right now to leave the fence in place until it's necessary to move it, would continue forward, just as a comment so that the town council knows about it. And I'm sure you guys will take care of that in your report too.
We'll add it in.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Okay, so we'll move forward to item 7, any non-public hearing action items. I don't believe we have any of those. Any discussion items, item 8? Okay, so we come to item 9. This is a part of the meeting that, for public comments. Call of the public is an opportunity for the public to address the commission on any issue within the jurisdiction of the commission that is not on the agenda. Public comment is encouraged. So if anybody has anything they'd like to say concerning the planning and zoning, ask a question or something on the items that were not on the minutes, if you'd like to step up to the microphone, please do so. We don't have any of those folks, so I'm going to close that portion of the meeting and move to item 10, which is a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. They never got to the next meeting. Thank you, folks. Thank you, staff,
I
commission.
saw council do it once.